I was 27, staring at the ceiling of my tiny apartment, heart pounding, sweat dripping down my forehead, wondering how the hell I ended up here. My bank account had $43 left, my phone was buzzing with notifications I didn't care about, and my so-called dream job felt like a prison sentence. I'd spent years chasing what I thought was success, scrolling through social media, comparing my life to strangers who seemed to have it all, working late nights to impress a boss who barely knew my name. But that night, something broke inside me. I asked myself 5 questions that flipped my world upside down. They weren't the fluffy, self-help kind of questions you'd expect. No, these were raw, gut-punching, make-you-cry-in-the-shower questions that forced me to face the truth about my life. And if you're watching this, chances are you're where I was, stuck, lost, or just numb. So let me take you back to the moment it all started to unravel. It was 2 a.m., and I was doom-scrolling, as usual, my eyes burning from the screen's glow. I'd just seen a post from an old high school friend. Yacht, Maldives, perfect smile. Meanwhile, I was eating instant noodles for the 3rd time that week. I wasn't jealous, not exactly. It was worse. I felt invisible. Like my life was slipping through my fingers and I had no idea how to grab it back. I'd graduated with a degree I was proud of, landed a job everyone said was stable, but stable felt like a slow death. I was working 60-hour weeks, my relationships were crumbling, and I hadn't slept properly in months. My mum called me out on it during a rare visit home. "You look like a ghost," she said, her voice trembling. That hit hard. I wasn't living. I was surviving. Barely. The first question came out of nowhere, like a slap to the face. What am I actually afraid of? I wasn't ready for it. I thought I was just stressed, overworked, maybe a little lazy. But fear, that was a word I hadn't let myself touch. I grabbed a notebook and wrote it down, my hands shaking. I realized I was terrified of failing, terrified of quitting my job and having nothing to show for it, terrified of being that guy who could have been something, but ended up broke and alone. I'd been running from that fear my whole life, saying yes to things I hated just to avoid looking like a failure. That question forced me to see how much I'd let fear steer my choices, choosing a safe career over my passion for writing, staying in toxic relationships because I didn't want to be alone, even scrolling mindlessly to avoid thinking about my life. The second question hit even harder. What's the worst thing that could happen if I let go? I sat there staring at the page, imagining quitting my job, cutting out the noise and chasing what I really wanted. The worst case. I'd lose my apartment, move back with my parents, maybe couch surf for a while. Embarrassing? Sure. But world ending? No. I'd always thought the worst case was catastrophic, but writing it down made it small, manageable. I started to wonder why I was clinging so tightly to a life that was suffocating me. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept writing, digging deeper, feeling this strange mix of dread and excitement. Then came the third question: when was the last time I felt truly alive? I had to think hard. Not the fake highs from a night out or a new gadget. Real soul on fire alive. I remembered a summer in college, interning at a small magazine. I'd stay up late writing articles. Not because I had to, but because I loved it. I'd pitch ideas, chase stories, feel this spark I hadn't felt in years. But after graduation, I'd chosen the practical path: corporate job, steady paycheck, benefits. That memory stung. It was proof I'd known what I wanted once, and I'd walked away from it. I felt tears welling up, not just for what I'd lost, but for how long I'd been lying to myself. The fourth question was brutal: who am I doing this for? I thought it was for me, my career, my savings, my future. But the more I dug, the clearer it became. I was living for other people's expectations, my parents' pride, my boss's approval, the likes on my Instagram posts. I was performing, not living. I'd spent years trying to prove I was enough, but to who? Strangers, colleagues who didn't care. That realization was like a punch to the gut. I was exhausted. And for what? A life that didn't even feel like mine. The final question was the one that broke me open. If I had 1 year left, what would I do differently? I didn't want to think about it, but I couldn't stop. If I had 1 year, I wouldn't be at that desk, staring at spreadsheets. I'd be writing, traveling, connecting with people who mattered. I'd stop saying someday and start saying now. That question wasn't just a thought experiment. It was a wake-up call. I was 27, but I wasn't guaranteed another year. None of us are. I closed my notebook, my heart racing. Those 5 questions had ripped my life apart, and I knew I couldn't go back to pretending everything was fine. That was the night I decided to change. Not in some grand movie montage way, but in small, messy steps. I didn't have all the answers, but I had a start. I'd spent years running from the truth, but those questions forced me to face it. And if you're still watching, I'm guessing you're ready to face yours too. What are you afraid of? What's holding you back? I don't know your story, but I know this. Those questions will shake you to your core. And sometimes that's exactly what you need. That night, with my notebook full of questions and my heart still pounding, I knew I couldn't just sit there and let my life keep slipping away. I was done feeling like a passenger in my own story. But knowing you need to change and actually doing it, that's a different beast. I was terrified, broke, and had no clue where to start. My job was draining me. My phone was a black hole sucking up my time, and I felt like I was drowning in a sea of shoulds. What I should be doing, who I should be. But those 5 questions had cracked something open, and I couldn't unsee the truth. So I started small, clumsy, and scared out of my mind. Let me walk you through the steps I took to claw my way out of that dark place. Steps you can take too, no matter how lost you feel right now. The first thing I did was face the time suck that was my phone. I'd been spending 10 hours a day on it. 10 hours. That's 70 hours a week, nearly 3,000 hours a year, gone. Poof. I downloaded an app called Freedom to block social media during work hours. At first, I hated it. My fingers itched to scroll like an addict looking for a hit. But after a week, I noticed something. I had time to think, time to breathe. I wasn't just reacting to notifications anymore. I was choosing what to focus on. Step 1 for you, track your screen time. Use an app or just check your phone settings. See the number, let it shock you, then set a limit. Mine was 2 hours a day, max. It's not about cutting it out completely, it's about taking back control. Next, I had to deal with my job. I wasn't ready to quit, not with $43 in my bank account. But I couldn't keep pouring my soul into something that felt meaningless. So I started carving out time for what I loved. Writing. I'd wake up an hour earlier, 5 a.m., bleary-eyed, coffee in hand, and write for 60 minutes before work. No excuses, no distractions. I used a cheap notebook, not even a laptop, to keep it simple. Those early mornings became my sanctuary. I wrote short stories, blog posts, even random thoughts. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about showing up for myself. Step 2. Find 1 hour a day for something that lights you up. Maybe it's painting, coding, or running. Doesn't matter, just pick something that makes you feel alive and protect that time like it's sacred. Then came the harder part, cutting out the noise. I realized I was surrounded by people and habits that kept me stuck. Friends who only wanted to party, colleagues who complained but never changed, even family who meant well but pushed me toward safe choices. I started setting boundaries. I said no to late-night drinks that left me drained. I stopped answering work emails after 7 p.m. I even had a tough conversation with my parents, explaining why I needed to chase my own path, not theirs. It wasn't easy. God, it was awkward, but it was like shedding a heavy coat I'd been wearing for years. Step 3. Look at your circle. Who lifts you up? Who drags you down? Start small. Say no to one thing that doesn't serve you. You'll feel guilty at first, but that guilt fades. Freedom doesn't. The fourth step was about money, because let's be real, you can't change your life if you're broke and stressed. I started a side hustle writing freelance articles. My first gig paid $50 for 1,000 words. Peanuts, but it was a start. I used sites like Upwork and pitched local businesses for content. Within 6 months, I was earning $1,000 extra a month. Not life-changing, but enough to give me breathing room. It let me save up, so when I finally quit my job a year later, I had a $5,000 cushion. Step 4. Find one skill you can monetize. It doesn't have to be glamorous. Tutoring, graphic design, even dog walking. Start small, but start. Every dollar you earn outside your day job is a step toward freedom. The final step was the scariest, committing to the change. I'd been dipping my toes in, testing the waters, but I was still half in, half out. So I made a promise to myself. I'd give writing a real shot for 1 year. No safety net, no excuses. I quit my job, moved to a cheaper apartment, and went all in. That first month was chaos, self-doubt, late bills, rejection emails from editors. But I kept going. I published my first article under my own name, then another. By the end of the year, I'd built a portfolio, landed a part-time editing gig, and felt more alive than I had in a decade. Step 5. Set a deadline. Give yourself 1 year to chase what you love. It doesn't mean you'll have it all figured out, but it means you're moving forward. These steps weren't magic. They were messy, hard, and sometimes I wanted to give up. But here's what happened. I went from 10 hours of screen time to 2, from a job I hated to one I loved, from $43 in my account to $10,000 in savings. I read 15 books that year, reconnected with friends who mattered, and started sleeping through the night again. My life wasn't perfect, but it was mine. And the crazy part, it all started because I dared to ask those 5 questions and act on the answers. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to start, right now, today, with whatever you've got. So there I was, a year into this wild experiment of chasing a life that actually felt like mine. I wasn't rich, I wasn't famous, but I was free from the suffocating routine, the endless scroll, the weight of other people's expectations. Those 5 questions didn't just change my direction, they gave me a map to a life I didn't think was possible. But here's the thing, none of this matters if you don't take that first step. You've heard my story, you've got the steps I took, but this isn't about me anymore. It's about you. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads, just like I was. The question is, are you going to keep scrolling, keep waiting for someday, or are you going to grab your life by the horns and make it yours? Let's talk about what happens next and how you can make it real. Picture this. A year from now, you're waking up excited, not dreading the day. You're spending your time on things that light you up, not things that drain you. Maybe you're writing, painting, starting a business, or just finally sleeping without a knot in your chest. That's what's waiting on the other side of action. But it starts with you saying yes to yourself, not tomorrow, not when you have more money or time, today. Grab a notebook, a napkin, the back of a receipt, whatever. Write down those 5 questions I asked myself. What am I afraid of? What's the worst that could happen? When was I last truly alive? Who am I doing this for? If I had 1 year left, what would I do differently? Don't just think about them, write the answers. Let them burn into you. They'll hurt, they'll scare you, but they'll also show you the way. Now, take one step, just one. If your phone's eating your life, set a screen time limit tonight. 2 hours max. If your job's killing you, Carve out 30 minutes tomorrow to work on something you love. If you're surrounded by people who drag you down, say no to one thing that doesn't feel right. These aren't huge leaps. They're small, gritty choices that add up. I started with an hour of writing in the morning, a $50 freelance gig, a hard conversation. Those tiny moves built a life I'm proud of. You don't need to quit your job or move across the world. You just need to start where you are with what you have. Every big change begins with a single shaky step. And here's the truth. You're going to stumble. I did. There were weeks I doubted everything. Nights I cried over rejection emails. Days I felt like a fraud. But every time I fell, I went back to those questions. They were my anchor. They reminded me why I started. So when it gets hard, and it will, don't quit. Go back to your answers. Let them pull you forward. You're not alone in this. I was you, sitting there, wondering if I was enough. You are. You just have to believe it enough to act. This is where the rubber meets the road. If you're ready to change your life, hit that subscribe button right now. Not because I need the numbers, but because it's a promise to yourself, a signal you're done waiting. Join this community of people who are asking the hard questions and taking the scary steps. And in the comments, tell me, what's one thing you're going to do today to take back your life? Maybe it's cutting an hour off your screen time, signing up for a course, or just writing down those 5 questions. Share it. Let's hold each other accountable. And if you know someone who's stuck, who's scrolling their life away or chasing someone else's dream, share this video with them. You might just change their direction too. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying you won't be scared, but I am saying it's worth it. Those 5 questions didn't just change my life, they saved it. They showed me I was worth fighting for, and you are too. So what's it going to be? Another year of the same or the start of something new? The choice is yours. Make it now.